You're always focused on the wrong thing, Nick. Rock took all we had and left you with this bullshit. And you smiling because you got your head stuck between her legs.
Earlier this season, I ran through a breakdown of the history of Power Universe's most manipulative liars, Raquel Thomas. Over the course of 2.5 seasons, we've not just learned about her being Howard's former CI, we've seen her make moves such as giving up Unique's re-up, taking control over her own brother's record label, to recently planting a gun in her own son's backpack. She's made enemies on the street, law enforcement are hot on her heels, and she's also got broken relationships with some of her family members. Now, her speaking Spanish in 304 made me question, what do we know about Rock? So I went through her history with moves that we've seen her make, as well as potential moves with DEFCON, High Post, having Marvin moved out the way to take control, and having Davina taken off the chessboard because she could have been seen as being a distraction to Kanan. In Power there are a lot of unknowns and hidden chess moves, and so the same now extends to Ronnie Mathis, who has a lot of hatred for Rock. And I guess the question is, why? What's the history between them besides being competitors, and why is Ronnie the way he is? Was he always so awkward and socially maladjusted, or did he change while he was inside? So in this breakdown, we're going to take a look at the history of Ronnie Mathis from what we know so far, why he is the way he is, and then we're going to take a look at some theories based on the evidence, facts, and findings when it comes to the history between Ronnie, Rock, and DEFCON, and whether he knows about DEFCON not being Kanan's father, and what he could do about it in Raising Kanan, Season 3.
I'm the big dog. That's what you don't get.
Unique's big brother, the guy you stay away from because he's so wild and fucked up. He ran the operation which was passed down to Unique because he got done by Ralph Sacristano, who manufactured evidence which put him behind bars for 3 years. But was he always the way we've seen so far in 5 episodes of Season 3? Now we can't be 100% sure because some do change in prison and others are just who they are. With Ronnie, he's a psychopath, not a sociopath, a psychopath. I know there are some overlapping characteristics, but Ronnie is definitely a real special kind of psychopath. He doesn't just have this ability to mask his emotion. When we look at Ronnie Mathis, he's very shallow, he has very limited responses, he's very strategic in the way he stirs up water to catch a fish. The way he questioned his brother around Rock, knowing that things had changed between them since he'd been inside, was very calculated, because he was looking at his response and he was going to judge his next move based on how his brother responded. He hides in the shadows when he wants to remain hidden, but he also makes himself visible when he wants to be seen. He's very creepy, unpredictable, I'd say a little reckless. He's all over Queens being a menace, and he just makes a lot of us as the audience and those on Raising Kanan feel very uneasy and uncomfortable. He's also emotionless. He doesn't like when people talk shit to him or about his business, which I personally feel is a bit hypocritical, especially when he wasn't shy in speaking about Unique's business to either Panessa or Snaps.
That's the very reason why your socially maladjusted ass is here asking for counsel.
Socially maladjusted, which is actually a term that is often used in the context of psychology and sociology, which describes people who struggle to adapt to or engage in appropriate social situations. And if we were to be honest, that's Ronnie Mathis to a T. From what we saw in the club, to Pop giving him a hug and running her hands down his body, he doesn't like people getting too close to him. He seems like he doesn't like people invading his space, which also probably stemmed from his time in prison, because you do get used to your own space and privacy. He's always tidying up after himself, putting things in order, which is probably because he has some form of OCD, but also because he likes things how they're supposed to be. He's resistant to change. Basically it's his way or no way. Now, even though the TV was off, Unique said he also likes to watch his nighttime stories, and he loves his Honey Nut Cheerios, which I also think was a nod to Omar from The Wire.
You ain't got no honey nut.
I put a post up on X a while back, and I said name the character, and a few people actually got what I was referring to. It was also a nod to Omar from The Wire, as well as Ronnie. Now I also do think it is worth mentioning Omar from The Wire was gay. It doesn't mean that Ronnie is as well. He could be or might not be, but I will be running through a fan theory a bit later on in this video. But having said that, some of the most ruthless and vicious characters that we've seen across a lot of shows, not just Power, have been. For example, Felipe Lobos, who I would say holds the crown as Power's greatest villain so far. Regardless, I do think when all is said and done with Ronnie Mathis on Raising Kanan, I do think he will give Lobos a good run for his money for that top spot. But let's wait and see what other terror he causes on the streets of Queens. Now that's a bit about who Ronnie Mathis is from a more of a characteristics point of view, and this brings me on to his backstory and his relationships.
Made you money back in the day, Snaps.
Yeah?
No, we gave you money back in the day, Urkel.
And the shit worked out for you.
Now something we did learn about his backstory is he has a history with Snaps and Pop. Ronnie made them a lot of money back in the day, a business partnership that proved to be very beneficial for both. but Snaps and Pop are now retired, so instead of being in the game themselves, they just help others finance their operations for a return on their investment. So there was a bit of history in this room, something I feel we are going to learn a bit more of in the second half, especially as we see them in a club partying, having fun, but with Ronnie doing classic Ronnie things, just standing there on the side in his own space, not really getting too involved in the fun, but definitely plotting his next move.
If Rock breathing, she hustling. Should have took her out back in the day.
Now this is where we bring it over to Rock and the battle between Ronnie and Southside's very own Queenpin, who isn't in the game at this moment in time, but will no doubt make a move with Quan and Unique's heroin operation, and also at some point collide with Ronnie. In 303 we heard Ronnie telling Unique maybe they should have got rid of Rock back in the day, with him following up on Unique's business proposal, telling him that Rock took everything that they had and left him with this bullshit. And look, as much as I actually don't agree with a lot of what Ronnie says and has done, he's actually not wrong in pointing the finger at Rock. When Ronnie was inside, Unique took over the operation, but Rock was the cause of his operation's downfall. She snitched on his re-up to Detective Howard, which made him lose his plug in Dean. She then set him up for shooting Howard, where he did a small stint in jail. When he was out, he found himself with no crew, no organization, and no plug, and also found himself working out in New Jersey for Rock. So the game might have changed on the streets with the shooting of Howard and with the Italian mafia, but a lot of it was a domino effect from Rock making some real foul moves. So Ronnie was right in pointing the finger at Rock. He also probably thinks Unique lost sight of the bigger picture, which again, I probably have to side with Ronnie on that one as well, because Unique did start to show a bit of his vulnerable side and loving side when it came to Rock.
Figure I had to wash all this money I got left over. Shit just collecting dust in a storage unit.
So there was this pillow talk where Rock revealed that she has money stashed away in a storage unit, and if this was seasons 1 and 2, we know the move that Unique would have made. I'm sure if he told Ronnie this info as well, he would have made a very similar move, but we'll never really know for sure. Although one thing we do know for sure is, his hatred for Rock really seems to run deep. Like, he really hates her to the core. And so that brings me on to the backstory of these characters from before Ronnie went inside prison. As I mentioned before, there's not a whole lot to go on in terms of his backstory just yet, but I do feel in the second half we will learn a bit more, especially with Unique out the way. His death paves the way for the storyline to take a shift and have a bit more focus on Ronnie. So I do think there will be a lot more dialogue, especially if he's here until at least the end of season 3. But with that being said, we know that Rock was a CI back in the day working undercover for Detective Howard, where at the time DEFCON was said to be in charge, who let's not forget, was gay. So the question I have is, which is where we get to the theory element, did Ronnie know that DEFCON was gay? And does that mean he knows that DEFCON can't be Kanan's father? Could he begin to ruin Rock's reputation in the streets by just talking shit or finding out that Kanan's father is a cop? Because let's not forget, he isn't exactly afraid of talking about other people's business. I went through a theory of how Ronnie could expose Rock's history to Kanan to poison his mind, but reputation is also a big part of the street game, as one of the principles from the 48 Laws of Power does tell us, guard your reputation with your life. The reason why Rock kept Howard being Kanan's father hidden was because she knew the streets would eat him up alive for being a cop's son, and I guess she was also doing so to protect her reputation. It would have also revealed that Rock was sleeping with a cop, as well as putting a target on her back. Now the reason why DEFCON hid his sexuality was because it wasn't commonly accepted back in the day, and it would have affected his street cred. That's why he used to pay Rock to keep up appearances as his girl. But if Ronnie and Kanan do get talking a bit about the past, could Ronnie start to learn a thing or two, and could he start putting word out on the street to really hurt Rock's reputation? Again, sometimes it's not about hitting your enemy's pockets, pointing a gun to their head or taking their territory. Putting shit like this on the street would mean Rock would lose all credibility, and her reputation really would go down the pan. It's also the same in the corporate world. Just have a look at what's happened to some big names and companies in recent times. Your reputation could go in an instant. So the consequences could be huge for Rock. It could cause issues with the Italian mafia, cause tension between her and her family, because it would raise even more questions, and word could even get back to law enforcement. So there is going to be a lot of chess moves being played in the second half, and Ronnie's going to be at the center of it all, that's for sure. He's going to be playing on every single bit of vulnerability and weakness. He's going to poison Kanan's mind, and he's going to talk a whole lot of shit. So it's just a real question of what does he know, what will he learn, and what does he do to expose and reveal to really ruin Rock's credibility, not just with Kanan, but also on the streets. Now last but not least, I have read a lot of comments on DEFCON and Ronnie having this connection, and that's why he could really have this hatred for Rock. Now what I would say to that theory is, there's not much evidence to back it up with, so I'm not for or against that theory. What I would say is let's just be patient, keep our eyes and ears open and see what stories do come out. We can't say that Ronnie would talk shit about Rock, expose her, and ruin her reputation in the streets, because there is evidence, facts, and findings to go on. For example, if he's willing to do it to his own brother, then he'll definitely have no issue in talking shit about Rock. But in regards to DEFCON and Ronnie's connection, I don't think we can say we have that much evidence, but let's just keep our eyes and ears open. So with that being said, that's a breakdown of what we know so far with a little theory of how we might see Ronnie exploiting this situation with Rock based on some history. So drop all your thoughts down below in the comment section. Let me know what you think they could reveal in terms of their past, and will Ronnie start to expose Rock to the streets and also to Kanan? Does he also know about DEFCON's history and how he's not Kanan's father, and could he use this to his advantage? Drop all your thoughts down below in the comment section, and as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.